Hey everyone, welcome back to Better Talk English. I'm Victoria, and today we're talking about something almost every English learner thinks about at some point, speaking like a native. I feel like people imagine this as something perfect, like flawless grammar and perfect pronunciation. But real native speech is actually much more natural and a bit messy in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where most learners get confused right from the start. They think natives speak in perfect sentences all the time, but in reality, people pause, restart, and sometimes don't even finish what they were saying properly.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. And what's interesting is that it still sounds completely natural when natives do it. Like they might say something, stop halfway, and then adjust it, and nobody even notices it as a mistake.
Yeah, because the focus is not on structure, it's on meaning and flow. Native speakers are thinking about what they want to say in the moment, not building grammatically perfect sentences in their head.
Right. And I think that's a huge difference from learners because learners often stop speaking just to make sure everything is correct. And that actually slows them down and makes them sound less natural, even if their grammar is good.
Oh, yeah, totally agree. I've noticed that when someone speaks too carefully, it almost feels like they're reading instead of talking. The conversation loses energy because everything's too controlled.
And that energy is really important because native speech has rhythm. It goes fast, slow, emotional, casual. It's not flat or mechanical at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think rhythm is something people don't even think about, but they definitely feel it when it's missing. That's why even simple English can sound fluent if the rhythm is natural.
Oh, wait, that reminds me. I once heard someone speaking with almost perfect grammar, but it still sounded kind of robotic. And I was like, why does this feel unnatural even though everything is correct?
Yeah, I've had that experience too, and usually what's missing is emotion and reaction. Native speakers don't just speak, they react to what's happening in the conversation.
Exactly. Reactions are a big part of sounding natural. Things like, oh, wow, no way, seriously, or even just small sounds like, or yeah, make speech feel alive.
Oh, yeah, and it's funny because learners are often told to avoid those things, but if you remove them completely, your speech starts to sound too clean and unnatural.
Right. And I think fillers also help with thinking time. Instead of stopping completely, you can just say, well, or, and keep the flow going.
Yeah, that's actually a really important skill because in real conversations, you don't always have time to prepare your sentence. You have to think and speak at the same time.
Oh, yeah. And that's what makes speaking feel difficult for learners at first, because they're trying to translate in their head instead of reacting naturally.
Exactly, and that translation step slows everything down. Native speakers don't translate, they just think directly in ideas and respond instantly.
Mm. And vocabulary is another interesting thing because many learners think using advanced words makes them sound fluent. But in real life, natives usually prefer simple and clear language.
Yeah, totally. Like instead of saying something complex, they just keep it short and natural. Like, I'm really tired, instead of something very formal or complicated.
Oh, yeah, and that simplicity actually makes speech more powerful because it feels honest and direct. You don't sound like you're trying too hard.
And I think that's a key idea here. Sounding natural is not about sounding impressive, it's about sounding comfortable and easy to understand.
And speaking of sounding natural, I think one thing learners don't practice enough is reacting in real time. Like instead of preparing perfect answers, just responding instantly to what someone says. That's actually where natural flow starts to appear.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one, because real conversations are never planned. You don't get time to think, okay, I will now construct a perfect sentence. You just respond, sometimes even before you fully think it through.
Exactly. And that's why native conversations feel so fast and smooth. They're not carefully built, they're more like quick reactions layered on top of each other.
Yeah, and I think learners can actually train this skill, not by memorizing sentences, but by practicing spontaneous speaking, like describing what you see right now without planning too much.
Oh, wait, let's try something simple in our minds. Imagine we're sitting in a cafe and suddenly someone says, "It's so crowded today." A native wouldn't think too long. They'd just react like, "Yeah, seriously, I didn't expect this."
Yeah, exactly. Or even something like, oh, wow, it always gets busy around this time. It's short, natural, and it keeps the conversation moving.
And that's the key, keeping the conversation alive. Even small responses matter because they show engagement and make the other person want to continue talking.
Right, and that's something I noticed when I first started speaking more naturally. The more I relaxed, the easier it became for other people to also relax in the conversation.
Oh, yeah, because communication is emotional too, not just linguistic. If you sound tense, the whole conversation feels tense, even if your grammar is perfect.
Yeah, and that's why native speech often feels light. It doesn't feel heavy or overly structured. It just flows from one idea to another.
Exactly. And let's go deeper for a second. I think another important thing is thinking in English instead of translating, because when you translate, everything becomes slower and more controlled.
Oh yeah, totally agree. And I remember when I used to translate my head, I would always pause before speaking. But once I started thinking directly in English, everything became much smoother.
And that smoothness is what people recognize as fluency, even if your grammar isn't perfect. It's the natural flow that creates that impression.
Right, and I think we should do another role play, something more realistic. Let's say we meet a friend after a long time at a bus stop.
Okay. Hmm. Oh, hey, I didn't expect to see you here.
Oh wow, yeah, it's been a while. What are you doing around here?
Just heading home. Honestly, I've had such a long day, I can't even think properly.
Yeah, I get that. Same here. I was just thinking the bus better come quickly today.
See? That feels so natural, right? Nothing complicated, just real reactions in simple sentences.
Exactly, and notice how we didn't plan anything at all. It just flowed based on the situation, and that's what real English conversation is like.
And I think after that little role play, one important thing becomes very clear. Native like English is not about building perfect sentences. It's about staying in the moment. Because when you're truly present in a conversation, you stop thinking about grammar rules and start focusing on meaning.
Yeah, exactly. And that being in the moment part is actually what makes people sound fluent even at lower levels. I've seen learners with simple English sound very natural just because they react quickly and don't overthink every word.
Oh, yeah. And that overthinking is really the enemy here. Like, the more you analyze your sentence while speaking, the less natural your speech becomes. It's almost like you interrupt your own flow every time you try to be perfect.
Right, and native speakers don't do that. They don't pause mentally to check grammar rules. They just continue the idea, even if it's not perfectly structured. That's why their speech feels smooth even when it's messy.
And I think learners should actually allow themselves to be a little messy at first, because that messiness is part of natural development. You clean it later, but first, you need flow.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Messy first, smooth later. And honestly, nobody becomes fluent by staying silent and perfect. You become fluent by speaking imperfectly but consistently.
Exactly. And oh, yeah, consistency is another huge factor people underestimate. Even 10 to 15 minutes of real speaking every day builds more natural fluency than hours of silent studying.
Yeah, because speaking is a physical skill too. Your mouth, your rhythm, your reaction speed, all of that improves only when you actually use the language out loud.
Right. And I think another shift people need is accepting that native like doesn't mean perfect imitation. It means comfortable communication, where your ideas come out naturally without stress.
Oh yeah, I like that. Comfortable communication. Because when you're comfortable, your speech automatically becomes more relaxed, and that relaxation is what people perceive as fluency.
And also, I think emotions play a bigger role than vocabulary. Like, if you say something simple, but with the right tone and feeling, it sounds much more natural than a complex sentence said flatly.
Yeah, totally agree. Tone, rhythm, and reaction are often more important than words themselves. That's why someone can say very simple English but still sound very fluent and engaging.
Oh, wait, let's think about something. Imagine you're telling a story to a friend. You wouldn't carefully plan every sentence, right? You just say, so I was walking and then suddenly, and keep going naturally.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you even stop and say, wait, let me explain this better. That kind of self-correction actually makes speech feel more real, not less.
And that's the mindset shift I think we're trying to reach here. Stop aiming for perfect English, start aiming for real English, because real English is alive, flexible, and imperfect.
Right. And once learners accept that, everything becomes easier. The fear of speaking drops, and suddenly they start enjoying conversations instead of avoiding them.
Oh, yeah, and enjoyment is so important because when you enjoy speaking, you naturally speak more, and that alone improves your fluency over time without pressure.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest secret here. Fluency comes from use, not from thinking about fluency. You don't study your way into speaking, you speak your way into fluency.
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this idea. Speak more, think less, relax more, and let your English grow naturally over time.
Yeah, and if you take anything from today's episode, let it be this. You don't need perfect English to sound natural. You just need real English with real flow. Thanks for listening to Better Talk English, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice place to end today's conversation. It actually felt very real talking about this because it's something we all go through as English learners at some point. And honestly, I hope listeners don't feel pressure after this, but more like motivation to just speak a little more freely every day.
Yeah, I feel the same. And, Leffel softly, if anything, I hope people realize that speaking like a native is not a final destination or something perfect you suddenly achieve. It's more like a habit you build slowly through real conversations, mistakes, and practice over time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And, even if someone only takes one small idea from this episode, like don't overthink when speaking, that already makes a big difference because small changes in mindset actually lead to big changes in fluency later on.
Right. And I think the best thing you can do after listening is just try speaking a little today, even if it's just describing your day out loud or talking to yourself for a minute or two. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. It just has to be real.
Yeah, that might feel a little strange at first, but it works. And over time, it actually becomes natural. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here with us on Better Talk English.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. Take care, stay consistent, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone, and keep speaking English in your own natural way.
See you next time. Bye-bye.